Oh my God, dude, as soon as they hit the water. Oh, that's a nice fish too. Dude, as soon as they hit the water. Oh, that's awesome. Okay guys, so today, what worked the best for me on the water was sticking to my bait groups. So the bait groups are when you take all of your different styles of fishing and your top water, your jigging, your finesse fishing, your speed baits, your moving baits, and they all have something in common. They all share a common color, a pattern, things like that. So I call those bait groups, kind of like a food group, where they all kind of fit together in the same little category. And it covers every part of the water column. So every time I go to a new body of water, I figure out what colors I need to throw for the day based on the weather, the water clarity, the type of fish I'm fishing for. Then I set up my bait group. I figure out what I'm going to use for my top water, my shallow water, my mid-depth, my deep, my weeds. I pick my bait from each category, and I try to make sure they have the similar pattern or the similar color. So that way they all kind of, you know, if one works, they all work, just different depths kind of thing. So here's an example. So today, I'm throwing for top water, I'm throwing a Burnt Custom Baits wake bait. It's purple shad, so it's white and purple. So I'm throwing that for top water. Let me readjust. We got some heavy winds picking up. So for top water, I'm throwing the wake bait. And it's purple and white. So it's a dark and white contrast. So for my mid-depth, I'm throwing a Burnt Custom Baits square bill in a bone color, which is an ivory white and brown color. So it's still the dark and white contrast, and that's a 4 to 6 foot depth. Then for my weeds, this lake has a lot of vegetation, so I knew I was gonna be throwing in weeds a lot. Then I have my craw color, which is the watermelon and pumpkin, with the silver contrast, so you have the light and dark with the spinners. And then for finesse rigs, I have 2 rigged up because most of this lake is shallow. There's a lot of sandy islands. So I have a watermelon Z-Man finesse Ned rig. And I have a bad shad color, which is watermelon and white hula stick that I cut in half. It's a hula stick that I cut in half. So that has the dark and white contrast as well. So if you've noticed, all of my baits have something in common. They all have a dark and white contrast. So I have everything covered from the bottom of the water column to the top of the water column based on where I know I'm fishing. I know there's heavy vegetation here. I know there's sandy islands here. I know it's very, very clear water. So I went with light and dark contrast. And mostly moving baits too. My finesse rigs, I'm not moving as fast, but I'm still moving my finesse rigs. So that's what I try to do when I break down a new body of water or a body of water I'm pretty familiar with, is I set up my poles. I don't set up 4 square bills with different colors. I go out expecting which color I'm going to throw, and I have confidence in the color that I pick, and then I decide to throw that color or pattern all day, and I cover all the water columns. So some people like to have a dark square bill, a light square bill, a pink square bill, an orange square bill. 5 poles rigged up with the same bait, just different colors to see what works. Where I like to have a little more confidence in the colors that I choose based on the weather and the water clarity, and I make sure I have everything covered from the bottom to the top of the water. That way I can just switch poles out. If I hit a drop off, I can switch poles. If I hit a shallow island, like I'm on right now, I can throw my finesse rig. If I'm hitting some lily pads and some spread out vegetation on the top of the water, I can throw my top water. And I don't have to worry about cutting baits off all day and wasting time switching baits and wasting time tying new baits. I'd rather be catching fish. So that's why I use the bait groups, and that's how I know what to put on my poles, and that's how I set up for the day of fishing. fishing in deeper water. So in my group baits, I have my spinner rig. So in deeper water, I'm throwing my spinner rig. That's why I have group baits. So in the deeper water, and through what I have rigged up in my group for the deeper waters, and this is what I get. I got a big old hardy pike. Look at that big girl. Big pike. So that was my my Evolution 4x4 rig. So if the white spinnerbait's working, that means the white crankbait will work in a different situation. Ooh, sorry, buddy. So got a nice little bass right there too. So this one is on the Burn Custom Baits square bill, the 1.5 square bill. Oh, if I can get it out. So this one is on the Burn Custom Baits 1.5 square bill in the bone color. So that's what I'm talking about with the bait groups. Is the white paddle tail was working, the white spinner bait was working, so the white crankbait was working. Yeah, that was a good fish. The square bill was wedged sideways in its mouth. So this was sight fishing at its best right here. I looked down and saw a beautiful bass. So I threw my Ned rig over to him, and he took it. Whew. It's a good bass right there. Nice. So I'm throwing that paddle tail swim bait, and I was waiting for it. I knew I'd get a pike eventually on this thing, and I got a good one. Oh. So, like I was saying about throwing the bait groups, I knew when I was throwing something white and shiny on a sunny day that there's a chance I'd pull in a good pike. And that is what I did. Pull out the fish grips. Oh. Yeah, buddy. Got a good old slime ball. So it's not a bad pike. And that's what you get when you throw white shiny baits. Hold on, buddy. Go ahead, take off. Here we go. That's a good bass too. That's a good bass. Oh yeah. Yeah, buddy. That's a pretty looking fish though. One of the first things I do after I catch a pike, so I'm using 10-pound braid on this pole. So I have 10-pound braid on here. The first thing I do is rinse all the slime off my hands and my net. Second thing I do is rinse off my bait. I get all the slime off my bait, and then I inspect it. I make sure that there's no damage to the bait from the pike, from its teeth. I make sure that the line has no burrs or no nicks or abrasions on it. I do a little pull test to make sure, and then it's good to go. A lot of times I'll retie, depends on what bait I'm using. Sometimes I'll retie just to be safe because you don't want to lose a bait, but this one looks like it's still good. and it'll fight another day. So I've caught a fish on every rig I've been throwing today. I got a fish on my Ned Rig Finesse and Watermelon. I got a fish on my Bone Square Bill. I've gotten a fish on my spinner bait. I've gotten a couple fish on the white paddle tail underspin as well. So just goes to show you, group baits work. Throw the same kind of baits, the same color pattern, the same family of colors. And it doesn't matter what style bait it is, you can get different levels of the water column. You can get the square bill, you can get the spinner bait, the paddle tail, a Ned rig on the bottom, and you can catch fish everywhere. You just find out what bait group works for the area you're fishing and for the conditions and the fish that you're fishing for, and stick with the bait group. So let's get some more fish. So hopefully that helps. And if you guys have any questions about bait groups or any other kind of rigging, please comment below. And let me know what you guys use. If you guys use bait groups, or if you guys use a certain pattern, a certain color, comment that below as well. It could probably help some other people out as well. But watch some more videos. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And thanks for listening to me talk about my bait groups.